Throughout human history, there have been stories about civilizations that disappeared suddenly, entire cities abandoned, massive structures left behind by cultures that seemed to vanish almost overnight. Across ancient legends and historical traditions, there are repeated descriptions of worlds that ended in catastrophe. Some stories describe overwhelming floods, others speak of violent earthquakes, burning skies, or powerful forces that reshaped entire regions of the earth. In ancient writings, these moments were often described as the end of an age. A time when the world people believed was permanent suddenly changed. For centuries, these stories were often treated as myths, yet scattered across the world are clues that continue to raise difficult questions. Ancient ruins buried beneath layers of earth, cities built on top of older cities, massive structures whose construction still puzzles modern engineers. Some researchers believe these discoveries simply reflect the normal rise and fall of civilizations, but others have wondered something more unsettling. What if some ancient civilizations did not fade slowly into history? What if they ended suddenly? And if civilizations in the distant past truly experienced catastrophic endings, how quickly could something like that actually happen? Archaeologists have long known that many ancient cities lie buried beneath layers of soil and debris. In some regions, entire civilizations have been discovered meters below the surface of the modern world. Ancient settlements stacked one on top of another, each layer representing a different period in history. Some of these layers formed gradually over centuries. But in other locations, the evidence appears to suggest something far more sudden. Collapsed structures buried rapidly beneath mud and sediment. Entire districts abandoned at once. Artifacts left behind as if the people who once lived there were forced to leave quickly. Historians usually explain these events through known disasters: floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or warfare between rival civilizations. Yet across many ancient traditions, there are also stories describing catastrophes that seem to overwhelm entire regions at once. Stories of burning skies, great floods that swallowed cities, and wars so destructive that entire cultures were erased from history. Whether these stories reflect real historical events or symbolic warnings about the fragility of civilization remains a subject of debate. But the possibility they raise continues to fascinate researchers. How quickly could a civilization truly collapse? Some ancient traditions describe lost civilizations that existed long before the earliest written records of modern history. Among the most famous of these stories is the legend of Atlantis. First described by the Greek philosopher Plato more than 2,000 years ago, Atlantis was said to be a powerful island civilization that eventually disappeared beneath the sea after a catastrophic event. For centuries, scholars debated whether Plato intended the story as a philosophical allegory or a reference to a real ancient culture. But Atlantis is not the only civilization described in ancient traditions. In various cultures around the world, there are also stories of other lost lands. Some traditions speak of advanced societies destroyed by disasters. Others describe powerful conflicts between ancient peoples that ended entire ages of history. These stories often describe events unfolding with shocking speed: cities destroyed in a single day, civilizations swallowed by the ocean, or cultures wiped away by overwhelming natural forces. While modern historians remain cautious about interpreting these legends as literal history, the persistence of these stories across different cultures continues to raise intriguing questions. Were ancient people simply creating myths to explain natural disasters? Or were they remembering real events that reshaped the world in ways later generations struggled to understand? Beyond legends of lost civilizations, there are also ancient stories describing powerful wars fought long before recorded history. Some ancient texts describe weapons capable of immense destruction: flashes of light brighter than the sun, cities reduced to ashes, landscapes rendered barren after powerful conflicts between rival powers. Many historians believe these descriptions were symbolic or exaggerated accounts of conventional warfare. Ancient battles were often devastating, and poets frequently used dramatic language to describe the destruction they witnessed. Yet some researchers have suggested another possibility. Could these stories represent distant memories of conflicts far more destructive than we assume? If ancient civilizations possessed technologies or weapons that have since been lost to history, even small-scale wars could have caused enormous damage. Entire cities might have been destroyed, large regions rendered uninhabitable. Civilizations already weakened by natural disasters could have collapsed entirely. While there is no definitive evidence that such conflicts occurred on a global scale, the stories themselves continue to fuel speculation about the forgotten chapters of human history. And they raise another unsettling possibility. What if the collapse of ancient civilizations was not caused by a single event, but by a combination of catastrophes that unfolded within a very short period of time? History shows that civilizations are far more fragile than they often appear. Even powerful societies can unravel when multiple crises strike at once. A major natural disaster can weaken infrastructure. Economic systems can collapse under pressure. Wars can destabilize entire regions. And once a civilization begins to fragment, the effects can cascade rapidly. Cities dependent on distant supply chains may struggle to survive. Communication networks may break down. Political systems that once maintained stability can suddenly fail. Throughout history, civilizations that once seemed permanent have vanished far faster than the people living within them ever imagined. The fall of major empires often appeared sudden to those who experienced it. But in reality, the seeds of collapse had often been building quietly for years. The question ancient legends raise is whether some collapses occurred far more dramatically, not over centuries, but within years, months, or even days. And if such rapid catastrophes did occur in the distant past, how much evidence of those events would still remain today? Across the world, there are places where the remains of earlier civilizations lie hidden beneath modern cities. Archaeologists have uncovered entire districts buried beneath layers of earth and debris. Some cities contain multiple levels of construction, each built on top of the ruins of earlier settlements. These layers reveal that history often unfolds in cycles. Civilizations rise, cities expand, disasters strike, and later generations rebuild on the same ground. But occasionally, the layers between these civilizations appear unusually abrupt. Collapsed buildings, mud and sediment filling entire streets, structures preserved beneath sudden deposits of debris. In some cases, entire ancient districts appear to have been abandoned quickly and buried soon afterward. Researchers usually explain these findings through known geological processes such as flooding, landslides, or earthquakes. Yet these discoveries continue to fuel speculation about the possibility of sudden catastrophic events in the distant past. Events capable of reshaping entire landscapes in a very short period of time. Natural disasters have repeatedly demonstrated how quickly large regions of the Earth can be transformed. Powerful volcanic eruptions can darken the sky and cover entire cities in ash within hours. Massive earthquakes can collapse infrastructure across entire regions in minutes. Floods can sweep through valleys and plains with overwhelming force. In the ancient world, civilizations often lacked the ability to recover from disasters on this scale. A single catastrophic event could destroy critical farmland, disrupt trade routes, or force entire populations to migrate. When disasters occurred repeatedly within a short period of time, the consequences could become overwhelming. Civilizations weakened by natural catastrophes might have struggled to rebuild. Wars between rival powers could accelerate the collapse. And once a civilization passed a certain threshold, recovery might no longer have been possible. These patterns raise an unsettling possibility. If earlier civilizations faced catastrophic events that unfolded rapidly, then the collapse of an entire society might have happened far faster than we usually imagine. Today, humanity lives within a global civilization more interconnected than any society that has existed before. Cities depend on vast networks of infrastructure, electric power grids, global communication systems, transportation networks that move food and resources across continents. These systems provide enormous benefits, but they also create new vulnerabilities. A major disruption in one region can quickly affect distant parts of the world. Natural disasters can interrupt supply chains. Conflicts between nations can destabilize entire economic systems, and technological networks that support modern life require constant maintenance to remain stable. Many experts believe that modern civilization is resilient enough to recover from most disasters. But others have pointed out that complex systems can sometimes fail unexpectedly when multiple pressures occur at once. History shows that civilizations rarely collapse from a single cause. Instead, collapse often emerges from a combination of events that reinforce one another. When those pressures align, the pace of change can accelerate rapidly. The stories preserved in ancient traditions may reflect humanity's attempt to remember moments when the world changed dramatically. Moments when natural disasters, conflicts, or environmental shifts reshaped entire regions. Over time, these memories may have evolved into legends. Stories of lost continents, great floods, wars between powerful civilizations. Whether these stories describe literal, historical events or symbolic reflections about the rise and fall of societies remains uncertain. Yet their persistence across many cultures suggests that the idea of sudden transformation has always been part of the human imagination. Ancient people understood that the world could change quickly. Civilizations they believed would last forever could vanish within a single generation. And when those moments arrived, they often appeared sudden and overwhelming to the people who lived through them. Today, humanity possesses technology capable of extraordinary achievements. Yet the same technologies that have transformed the modern world also introduce new risks. Powerful weapons, global infrastructure networks, environmental systems that are becoming increasingly strained. Many experts warn that modern civilization must navigate these challenges carefully in order to avoid destabilizing the systems that support billions of people. While the possibility of a global catastrophe remains uncertain, history reminds us that civilizations often underestimate their own vulnerability. The people living in earlier ages likely believed their societies would endure indefinitely. Yet many of those civilizations ultimately disappeared, leaving behind ruins that later generations would struggle to explain. If a turning point in history ever did arrive again, it might not look the way people expect. Major changes in civilization rarely announce themselves clearly in advance. They often begin quietly, gradually, before accelerating rapidly once critical thresholds are crossed. The stories of lost civilizations and ancient catastrophes continue to raise a profound question about the nature of history itself. Is civilization a continuous upward journey, or does history unfold in cycles, where periods of stability are occasionally interrupted by dramatic turning points? Ancient traditions often describe the end of an age as a moment of transformation. Not simply destruction, but the closing of one chapter of history and the beginning of another. If those traditions contain even a fragment of historical truth, then the civilizations that came before us may have faced moments when the world changed far faster than anyone expected. And if such turning points have occurred in the past, it is natural to wonder whether humanity could one day face another. For now, the clues left behind by earlier civilizations remain scattered across the world: buried ruins, ancient texts, legends passed down through generations, fragments of a story that may never be fully understood. But they continue to invite the same question that people have asked for thousands of years. If entire civilizations truly disappeared before, how quickly could it happen again? What do you think? Throughout history, there have been moments when entire civilizations changed course almost overnight. Empires that once appeared unshakable suddenly fractured. Cities that once thrived were abandoned. Trade routes that connected distant cultures vanished. To the people living in those moments, the collapse often felt sudden and overwhelming. When historians study these events centuries later, they often discover that the collapse had been building quietly for years. Political tensions, environmental stress, economic instability, and technological shifts slowly placed pressure on systems that once held societies together. But there are also moments in history when change seems to accelerate with shocking speed. A single earthquake can level entire cities within minutes. A volcanic eruption can bury communities beneath ash in a matter of hours. Massive floods can sweep across regions and reshape landscapes that had remained stable for centuries. In the modern world, scientists understand many of these processes. Yet in the ancient world, such events would have appeared almost supernatural. Imagine living in a thriving city when suddenly the ground begins to shake. Buildings collapse, Fires spread, communication with neighboring regions fails. Within hours, the entire structure of society begins to unravel. Now imagine that same disaster occurring during a time of war or political instability. Supply chains fail, armies move across weakened regions, refugees scatter across the countryside. In those conditions, the collapse of a civilization might not take centuries. It could unfold within a single generation, or even faster. This possibility raises an unsettling question. If ancient civilizations truly faced moments when disasters, wars, and environmental changes collided at the same time, then the end of an age might not have been slow at all. It might have felt almost instantaneous to the people living through it. Many ancient traditions describe moments when the world seemed to change all at once. Some stories speak of oceans rising suddenly and swallowing coastal cities. Others describe violent earthquakes that shattered landscapes and forced entire populations to flee. There are also legends describing great wars fought between powerful civilizations long before recorded history. In these stories, ancient societies possessed extraordinary knowledge and technology. Their cities were said to be magnificent, their engineering remarkable, their influence spread across vast regions. But according to the legends, these civilizations eventually destroyed themselves through conflict. Some traditions describe weapons of immense power. Blinding flashes, thunderous explosions, entire cities reduced to ruins. Modern historians often interpret these descriptions as poetic exaggerations. Ancient storytellers frequently used dramatic imagery to describe battles and disasters. Yet the persistence of these stories across many cultures continues to raise questions. Why do so many ancient traditions describe the destruction of advanced civilizations? Why do these stories often involve both natural catastrophes and powerful conflicts? And why do they frequently describe events unfolding with incredible speed? If even a small part of these traditions reflects real historical events, then the collapse of earlier civilizations may have been far more dramatic than historians once believed. Not a slow fading into history, but a violent turning point that reshaped the world. Today, humanity lives in the most technologically advanced civilization in history. Global communication networks connect billions of people instantly. Massive infrastructure systems move food, energy, and resources across continents. Scientific knowledge has expanded our understanding of the planet and the universe beyond. Yet modern civilization also depends on systems that must remain stable in order to function. Electric power grids, satellite networks, transportation systems, global supply chains that support cities containing millions of people. These systems are incredibly powerful, but they are also interconnected. When disruptions occur, the effects can spread rapidly. History shows that civilizations rarely collapse because of a single event. More often, collapse occurs when multiple pressures appear at the same time. Natural disasters, political conflict, economic instability, environmental change. Individually, each of these challenges can often be managed. But when several of them emerge simultaneously, the pace of change can accelerate dramatically. Ancient civilizations may have faced similar moments when disasters, conflicts, and environmental shifts collided within a very short period of time. To the people living through those events, it may have felt as if the entire world changed overnight. Whether the legends of lost civilizations describe real historical events or symbolic warnings about the fragility of society remains uncertain, but they continue to raise one final question. If earlier civilizations truly faced sudden turning points in history, how prepared would our own civilization be if something similar happened again? What do you think?